By the way, my name is Buster, aka the Alkebulan Trust Trust when it comes to all things reactions. Um, and right now we're going to react to Mysterious Life. In fact, let me see it properly. Let me see how long it is. Oh, 15 minutes. Without pausing, I could do this in 15 minutes. The Mysterious Life of Aliko Dangote 2025 documentary. These may not be all facts, but we're just going to react to it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button, especially if you're a what can I speak? Aliko Dangote fan. You know what I mean? You want to know how he made his money. You want to know how he maintains his money. You get me? Let's keep it moving. When it comes to Femi Otedola, that had to be another day. It has to be. I just don't have time for it right now. I apologize. So that was in the title, but I ain't trying to
I think
mislead.
it makes you rich for about 6 hours and then broke for the rest of the month. The worst part isn't even the hangover, is looking at your bank balance the next day and finding
Aliko Dangote. Many people don't know a lot about this man, except that he is the richest person in Africa. But what if I tell you that there's a lot more to the billionaire figure than that? With a gripping marriage life, background, and shady political dealings, Dangote is not just an entrepreneur. He is, if not, the most interesting character in the Nigerian scene. What you're about to watch will change how you see this mysterious billionaire mogul and will offer an insider look into his personal world, power, and wealth.
What was that screen, Brad?
In 2011, Dangote was announced the richest man in Africa by Forbes media company, a position that he has been holding for over 13 years and counting. At the time of this announcement, Dangote's net worth stood about $2.1 billion, and in 2015, it skyrocketed to a whopping $25 billion. Although that figure dropped to $10 billion 5 years later, thanks to the depreciation of the Naira. His position as the continent's wealthiest man still remained unchallenged. However, this is just a view from an outsider perspective. There is a lot more to the man behind this fortune. The number one mystery about Dangote is the question of how he was able to achieve his wealth in the first place. The answer is simple: his family.
I came from a wealthy family. My late great-grandfather, the richest.
Saying that Dangote came from wealth is an understatement. He came from massive wealth. This is not to discredit his efforts, but to throw some light into some of the privileges and opportunities he had while growing up and how the clever young boy was able to leverage them. His mother, Maria Dantata, was the daughter of Sanusi Dantata, the top heir of the Dantata family, who were widely believed to be the richest household in West Africa at the time. Dangote's own father, Mohammed Dangote, died while he was just 8 years old, leaving him to be raised by the great tycoon Sanusi Dantata, his maternal grandfather. Despite all the riches his own father owned, Dangote admitted that his father left him nothing.
I did not inherit any money from my father. I built everything from scratch to where I am.
As the man had stated in his will that all his wealth be given to charity. Perhaps he wanted his children to make their own wealth and not depend on any inheritance, which might have worked in a way, as his first son, Aliko Dangote, would go on to not just make his own wealth, but also become the richest man in Africa, with only the sum of 500,000 Naira loaned to him by his grandfather. Adjusting for inflation, the loan amount would be worth over $1.6 million or 2.6 billion Naira.
Okay, I was going to see what's the conversion rate today. But I'm thinking to myself, right? Obviously, he was raised from 8 years onwards by his maternal grandfather. It makes me question, okay, what did his grandfather teach him? Do you understand? Because that's what you're really gonna. Because what you learn as a small child, especially beyond like before your teenage years, those are the things that you're gonna like have embedded in you, and then you're gonna be able to navigate through life. So that like it has a grip on you for a very long time. You know what I mean? Like it's just got me thinking. What did he learn? What did he learn? Because obviously he learned something to be able to make sure that he built up this vast amount of wealth. But let's keep it moving. Hit the subscribe button. Let's go. Like I said, I'm not going to try and pause as much.
Naira today. But that is not even the shocking part. What was even more mind-blowing was that the 20-year-old was able to repay the loan in just 3 months by importing and selling agricultural produce in the country. Spending his childhood with his grandfather had not just taught him a lot, it had greatly influenced his interest in business, even right from primary school, where he said he would often buy cartons of sweet and biscuits to resell to his classmates in school. In that same year, 1977, Dangote registered his first company, the Dangote Group, a small trading firm as it started out to be. The Dangote Group sold bags of cement, rice, sugar, and other commodities. While Dangote was making ripples in the business world, he wanted to settle down too. And he ended up marrying that same year, at just 20, to a woman named Hajiya Zainab, in what was reported to be an arranged marriage. However, Dangote was not as successful as he was in the business world when it came to the matters of the heart. His first marriage quickly ended in a divorce, and he decided to marry again. This time to a business partner known as Maria Rufai. It could be portrayed as a case of mixing business with pleasure, a situation that didn't turn out well as he and Maria later ended up divorced. Surprisingly, Dangote retained Maria in his company, where she still serves as an executive despite their separation, illustrating Dangote's ability to separate sentiments from business when it comes to running his company. Meanwhile, the young CEO was still relentless in his pursuit of love, as he went for it a third time, which we might say is the most interesting case. Not many people know that Aliko Dangote was once a suitor to Nafisat Yaradua, daughter of late President Musa Yaradua. He requested her hand in marriage in 2009 after reportedly being in a romantic relationship with the young lady. However, he was turned down by the woman, who later went ahead to marry an ex-governor of Bauchi State. Whatever the reason might be, the family had made their choice, and the richest man in Africa couldn't get the wife he wanted. But was Dangote really seeking a wife, or was he in search of a political alliance at that point like many had believed? Dangote's activities with the political class did not start today, as his strategic meddlings with the government would earn him the label of a monopolist, from pitching his transport services to the Central Bank of Nigeria in the 1990s. Dangote was able to climb into the inner circle of the ruling class, building connections with his expanding wealth and building wealth through his expanding connections. He would go on to solidify his position as a power figure when he donated the sum of 200 million naira or $2 million, a huge amount of money at that time, in financing the re-election of President Olusegun Obasanjo in 2003. The re-election was a successful one, and Dangote was expected to be a beneficiary of the government due to the controversial donations he made to the ruling party during elections. This expectation was not in vain, as the government would begin to raise eyebrows each time they enacted policies that favor the ambitious billionaire, often leaving his competitors in despair. One notable event was his popular rivalry.
I mean, look, I'll be honest, yeah. That happens across politics in a lot of countries, not just within African countries, but in Western countries. If you know, you know. So it just goes to show, like, yeah. So that I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, but let's keep it moving. Hit the subscribe button. Let's go.
With the Ibeto Cement Company during the administration of President Obasanjo. The cement trading industry was a stronghold of Dangote's empire during that time, and the Ibeto Cement Company was a contending competitor. It was a battle of who had the greatest market share in the billion-dollar sector, and Ibeto seemed to have secured the upper hand when he flooded the country with tons of cement imports, crashing the price of the commodity within the country and sending ripples around the Nigerian cement market. This badly affected Dangote, as his business was on the verge of crumbling since he couldn't sell his cement bags at more profitable prices. This led his company to write a letter to the Obasanjo government challenging the import license the administration had granted to Ibeto, which was highly disrupting the market. And whether it was just the letter or not, nobody could tell, as the coming days saw the revocation of the Ibeto's authority to cement import, leaving Dangote as the only player in the market. The
Man said, you know what? Man's gonna cement my place in history as the only Nigerian to be running this game. Basically, Dangote. Would you like? How greedy? That's greedy, bruv. Let's go.
The Obasanjo administration highlighted its commitment to encouraging local production of the cement commodity, urging that Ibeto Cement Company focus on improving local production rather than focusing on imports. This was a big blow to Dangote's rival, which led to numerous lawsuits, popular backlashes, and political dramas that continued into successive administrations. But one thing was sure, Dangote had not just saved his business, he had ruthlessly secured top spot for himself through the elimination of his opponents, which further allowed him the space and resources to completely grip the cement industry in Nigeria.
Business Development Manager?
Hiring for your small business? If you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place.
This is Dangote here. This is not.
Here's the big secret about women.
This is
we
a
want
major
you
business.
to flirt with us. We even want you to get sexual with us, desire us. But here's
In just 2007, Dangote's wealth had increased exponentially, catapulting him to become Nigeria's first dollar billionaire in the same year. He had completed his first cement factory, and 5 years later, he was able to secure a land lease from the government on a portion of the abandoned Apapa seaport, where he built the largest sugar refinery in the world, establishing a vertical supply chain that helped him dominate the sector. In 2013, Forbes officially declared him the richest man in Africa. To Dangote, however, he admitted seeing his valuation as just numbers written on paper and had to once visit a bank to withdraw $10 million in raw cash in order to get a feel of his money and not just hear about it.
I remember him talking about that. I remember there was a video of him interviewing him talking about that. I was like, really? Really? Hey, let's go.
One day I went to a bank and cash $10 million. Yeah. And I went home and I opened it and I look at 10 million. I said, okay, fine. Now I believe I have money.
It was a funny story he told about himself, but it revealed a lot more about him. For a person like Dangote, he seems less interested in how much he has made, but is more interested in how much he can make. That was why, in the same year he was declared the richest man in Africa, Dangote was already in talks with the government and investors about building a crude oil refinery. At approximately $20 billion, it would be the largest single investment in the history of the country and also a game changer to the Nigerian petroleum industry, the nation's black gold.
That makes sense.
The project took about 15 years from its conception to completion, as President Muhammadu Buhari finally commissioned the gigantic project in 2023, just a week to the end of his tenure. This was after so many delays and promises concerning the completion of the industrial site, which was now a matter of national interest given that it would be the first oil refinery in Nigeria after so many decades. Everybody believed that the refinery slated to produce 650,000 barrels of refined crude per day would...
You know what's mad? Or not mad? You know what's interesting? The fact that there's... Anyway, did they just say what I just thought they said? It would be the first oil refinery in Nigeria, which makes no sense to me when you think about the way that we export oil to different countries, by the way. Not within the African continent, but I mean as in, yeah. Let's go.
Would mean a crash in the price of petroleum products and would bring a sustainable end to the country's importation of refined crude oil with spear to export. The time of speculation had come and gone, and it was time for results. Did the $20 billion project fulfill its expectations? Fast forward to 2024, and Dangote is at loggerheads with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC), whom he accuses of trying to sabotage the success of his refinery. But what was the cause of this outcry? And if true, why would Nigeria's own petroleum company try to undermine Dangote's massive investment in the oil sector? Petroleum regulatory body had released a test result from a sample product of Dangote's refinery, citing that his refined product contained high amount of sulfur impurities. Dangote quickly debunked this, even providing his own samples in a public hearing to prove that his products were in fact very pure by standard measures. Then the issue of supply emerged as to where Dangote would be sourcing his crude oil supply from, given that the NNPC's share in the daily oil production in Nigeria was not enough to satisfy the crude oil demands of the massive refinery, thanks to the rundown of the country's mining operation. And not just that, the NNPC wanted to sell the crude oil supply to Dangote in dollars, which seemed ridiculous given that both were Nigerian companies and operated primarily within Nigeria. However, after a series of backlash and going back and forth, the NNPC backtracked on this, finally deciding to supply crude oil to Dangote's refinery at Naira prices, even though the supply would be less than the capacity of the refinery. But the problems of Dangote with the NNPC were yet to end, as the state company wanted more to the agreement. Upon resuming operations, the NNPC demanded to have an exclusive patronage of the refinery, which would hinder any other buyer but the NNPC to purchase petroleum from the company and sell to the consumer market. Many believe that such a move was uncalled for and only opened up an avenue for the exploitation of the masses by NNPC. Dangote himself was not satisfied by this, but had no option given that it would be impossible for his refinery to operate without succumbing to the demands of the NNPC. At this point, many called for the intervention of the government, but the federal government had made it clear that it would not meddle in the affair of the two companies, given that they were both independent and had the rights to negotiate between one another. Best believe this was a case of an unwillingness to act on the side of the government, given that it held the power to easily manipulate decisions in the NNPC but had chosen not to. It amplified the theory that a conflict of interest was at play within members of the government who, in collaboration with the nation's oil cabal and foreign actors, did not want to relinquish their hold on the oil market to the new player. In the face of all this, Dangote has confessed that his decision to build a refinery is a regrettable one. And given what he knows today, he would not make the same decision if the hands of the clock were to be rewound.
And you know why that? Listen, when it comes to certain commodities and certain resources, now I don't know it all, but there's certain commodities within the world that certain groups or people have a large market share to the point, and best believe they took it by force, not by, you know what I mean? Like, so they're not going to let go of that. You know what I mean? They're not going to let go of it. And because they're not going to let go of it, they will find ways to make sure whoever's trying to get into that market, they will sabotage. But credit to Dangote to be able to branch out. Do you know what I mean? He could have just stayed within the cement industry and just settled with that. But he explored other avenues. Do you know what I mean? But let's keep it moving now.
Despite all this, the Nigerian business mogul is still pushing harder than ever, holding as many press conferences as he can to let the world know of the oppression and challenges he is facing at the hands of the political class.
I knew that there would be a fight, but I didn't know that mafia in oil, they are stronger than mafia in drugs.
A class that he once enjoyed its power. Away from all the noises in the media, Dangote has not just built businesses, he has built a family too. He is a father to 3 daughters and an adopted son, all from his previous marriages. And he is currently not married, although he has been caught up in scandals involving mistresses. Dangote has fully devoted himself to his business. According to him, the demands of his investment have spared him no commitment to share with a life partner. Even with all his wealth, Dangote lives quite a frugal life, owning just 2 houses, one in Lagos and the other in Kano, his hometown, with a rented apartment in Abuja. Just like every other billionaire, he has a yacht too, which he named after his mother, Maria. Beyond the figures and controversies, Dangote represents resilience and ambition, continually pushing the boundaries of entrepreneurship in Africa. Despite the challenges he faces today, from battles with government bodies to investment dilemmas, Dangote remains a pivotal figure in Nigeria's economic landscape. Looking at his life, as much as we know, it is now clear that wealth, power, and influence come with their own set of trials. And Dangote's story, which is an example of this, is far from over.
I knew they were going to play it. By Burna Boy, Dangote by Burna Boy. That should have been the intro. That should have been the intro. Shout out to Dangote, even though he's friends with Bill Gates from hell. But anyway, let's see what people say in the comments real quick. Good content. As a South Africa, I would really love to see Nigeria joining BRICS. The Dangote group would need to be protected. The company is this company has monopolized it and can change the fortunes of Nigeria. The Nigerian government really needs to get in order and don't fail this man. What was I actually saying? What did I say? So it's not just me that actually sees what's going on. They may have not said it verbatim the way I said it, but they definitely know how much of a a massive market share they have in that, and they took it by pure force. Yeah, by pure force. Big bless. They love Mr. Dangote, the great African. This was a great watch and very inspirational because it shows, excuse me, how Aliko Dangote has cemented his place in history as one of the few Africans in modern era that will challenge the status quo despite backlash. Do you know what I mean? And when I say challenge the status quo, I'm talking about the status quo in terms of the market share in particular. Do you know what I mean? And if more people, I don't know, it's a tricky one. Like, would you rather would you rather build within and, trade within, or would you rather export, knowing that you already have the commodity within that country? Like, let's make it make sense. Like, let's genuinely make it make sense. And I could be wrong here, innit? Like, I think it could help, increase the value of the Naira. Do you know what I mean? Like, because how has the value of the Naira decreased in the space of how many decades? It's beyond a joke if you ask me. There's a reason for that, and I ain't gonna talk about that in this particular live stream. All I'm gonna say is everything you're seeing that's happening right now, there's a reason why certain things happen. You know what I mean? Anyway, shout you out for watching. That's it for today's stream. I really wanted to go into another African billionaire or Nigerian billionaire, but that's got to be on another live stream. You know what I'm saying? But like, that definitely will be in another live stream. I'm not even joking. It genuinely will be. Yeah, it genuinely will. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the share button if you haven't already. But yeah.